Using freeconferencecall.com, you are helping people around the world communicate for free. Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash. If you are the host, please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. Thank you. You are the only participant in the conference. The recording has started.
All right, I have 6:01. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, starting with roll call. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken? Approval of agenda in front of you. You do have the agenda. Are there any additions, subtractions, corrections that need to be made?
Do we want to move a couple items forward for the benefit of the people that are here?
Sounds like a
I think that that if anybody other than are here for the livestock permit down at Ewell.
Yeah.
Or the discussion on the school accessory building, raise your hand, let us know. You know, if those are the two that everybody's interested in, I move that those two items be moved up right after the sheriff's report, so that the deputy can get back out and do his job.
That's a motion made by Steve to move item 7C and 7H underneath item 5A. Is there a second?
second.
Second by Megan. Discussion. Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
All right, citizens forum. At this time, are there any citizens that would like to speak on anything other than that, those that are on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll go to departmental reports, starting with the sheriff's report. I do have that right here. What do you got for us today?
I don't have a whole lot, especially just in Maxwell. Just something I've been kind of noticing on patrols. We're getting a lot of scam reports right now. I don't know if it's just with tax season kind of coming and going or what, but it seems like there's a lot of fraud and scam and identity theft going on. So I don't know if you guys have a way to get that out, that a lot of calls like that are coming out, and we're taking a lot of reports like that lately. But that is Maxwell specific. I don't have anything for you.
Anything for WD Lentz?
I do.
Yeah.
I have several complaints from people about the speeders going out of town on Baldwin.
Mm-hmm. Out on Baldwin this time? Okay.
They're just, it's really
I'm not sure
loud.
how. There's a lot of potholes out on that road.
Well,
I'm not sure how you can speed out there, but
I would imagine it's north
once you get
of
past
North
that.
Street.
Yeah.
North
Yeah.
of Cemetery.
Okay.
But it was a really loud truck with.
I just got one of them now, so it could have been the same gentleman.
White four-door Ford with white lights on top.
You know,
He's right up there.
done well, yep. I
It goes by about 65 miles
just
an
pulled him
hour
over,
every
so
day.
that's why I'm late.
Good for you.
Anything?
Okay. I can add that on the, I guess, the kind of areas in town.
I know.
Anything else?
No.
I don't think so.
Issues?
I think we're good to go.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Thank
Stay safe.
Stay
Thanks.
safe.
Item 7C, discussion and action on livestock permit for 6570 325th Street. In your packet, you should have that permit application. And I can pull that up here. And Deb, you sent out the letter, correct?
Yes. There should be a list there of the people I sent it out to. And there was one reply back, which his letter's in there too. He replied on top of mine.
Yeah, I got it here. Should be on the last page of the first packet on that. So it looks like they are requesting a livestock permit for 30 calves and 30 goats. This particular acreage is on 4.38 acres according to the assessor's website. We do go off of the USDA or NRCS guidelines. And if you look at those guidelines, I believe it says on cows, 1 per acre. And then goats is 1 goat for 2 to 3/10 acres. Any conversation for the council before we open it up to public?
Is there a copy of our ordinance in here?
Right there.
The only thing I didn't see.
It's not a cow calf count.
No,
It's just calves.
just feeder calves. So
300.
I cow calve them on the pasture and at my place.
Right.
And then, I take care of the cows. We're looking for him to
So we can have.
take the calves. There'd be 300-400 pound calves.
300-400.
And they're only gonna be there in the winter. We got them out on pasture all summer.
How many did you say?
We got about 30 cows, and they have about 30 calves. Just looking for a place to put the calves over in the winter.
When we, the area is zoned industrial. The area is zoned industrial. It has been used agricultural for a number of years, but it is not an agricultural parcel. It's 4.5 acres. As such, it has to follow the zoning ordinance requirements. Commercial raising of animals, because this is a commercial feedlot, is not permitted in the industrial area. It's not permitted in the city at all. You can have family use, family raising of animals, and the family needs is 1 beef animal per year, or 2 to 3 goats. So this is significantly more than what the animal regulations permit, and it is, and if it's a commercial raising of animals, which it seems to be, then it would not be permitted in the zoning district. Joe, did you have a permit?
Yes.
You did?
Mhm. Yeah, before we got it, I came in and presented it and
Okay.
got it approved
Okay.
through city council.
And the minutes will show that what you were raising was primarily for animals for 4-H use.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
How many did you have, Joe?
We had 30 goats and 30 sows, and then they ended up, they had babies, so at times there was more than that on the property. And we never got any complaints.
Was that before the city put in the ordinances that they did? Yeah, because I have 3.43 acres and I can only have 3 cows. Calves,
Yeah, we never had any cattle.
calves.
And yours was for, family use.
Can you tell me where you saw that it's zoned industrial?
Right up there on that map.
Would it be on the Story County Assessor's page as that as well?
No,
So this
Yeah.
went into effect after
So they can zone it differently?
Jill Peters had the permit. This went into effect after
yeah,
their permit was granted.
Oh,
And they
I feel like that was in place.
This was in place?
I feel like it was.
I can
there
find
was
it.
an animal ordinance, but we didn't have these restrictions. And partially, these restrictions came into place as a result of the granting of your permit. Because it was so controversial, if you remember the hearings on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That being said, is there any other discussion on this item? Taylor or Kim?
I don't know, so you're saying that you can't have livestock there then?
You can have livestock there according to our city ordinance, but it's limited to 1 cow per acre. Am I reading that correctly?
If you're following the USDA,
And
which I can't.
how many goats per acre then?
Goats, it is 1 goat for every 2 to 3 tenths.
For every quarter acre.
So yeah, quarter acre, so you'd have 4 goats per acre, so you'd be 16, 18 someplace in there on the goats.
And that would be, if you look at your parcel, only about 2.5 acres is pasturable. The rest of it's buildings and yard. And so if you use the 5 goats to an acre times 2.5 acres, that would be 12 and a half goats, rounded up to 13.
I have a question. What if you're not using pasture for the goats and they're just grain fed and they're in the buildings?
Which is what they're
That's what they're
trying to
doing.
do.
That's what we want to
So
do.
then do
Yeah.
you go by that if they're not using pasture? You can't, because you're feeding them with another source, hay and grain.
Just like your sows, when you have your sows out there.
Yeah,
They're all-
sows, they're,
They probably never left the building.
Well, they did once, they visited. They visited
They're
Dollar
walking
General.
down the street all the time.
Shane put them away a couple times.
They walked around.
No big deal, but road trips.
They're wild and
They
fast.
were free range.
They thought they were
Right?
dogs.
They shot their dogs. Just wanna come visit.
That's what the guidelines suggest a certain number of animals if they're going to be pastured. If they are not being pastured, then there's also a certain number that are permitted, provided you have a large enough exercise yard area. And for that, each goat needs 50 square feet. So that's
Yeah.
not unreasonable.
No.
And house it for enclosed housing, they would need an additional 25 square feet per goat. And the cow would need 100 square feet for housing and 125 square feet for an exercise area, which in the 2.5 acres
the
you
old-
have would certainly be possible. But
The
then,
old cattle shed next to the barn there, the long,
Yeah,
that's open face to the south, right?
yes,
That could be used as housing,
yeah. We had
exercise
goats
area.
in the barn, and that cattle shed, and then the building over to the west of it as well. And then the other two were pigs.
Right.
Well, when Lauren moved there, they had originally had over 100 head of milking cows that never went outside.
Yeah, he used the building right next to the barn for
Right.
cattle.
Yeah. I can remember all the.
That was before he was in the city limits too.
well, and after it was in the city limits, he also had all that farm ground to the south.
Yeah.
And as such, it was a farm, and as such, it could not be regulated by zoning ordinances. As soon as it became 4.5 acres, then it was no longer a farm, and it falls under the zoning ordinance. And even if you can just look at, as soon as you're saying that you're going to confine the animals and not pasture them, then it becomes, and it's not for personal consumption, for family consumption, then it becomes a commercial operation. And as a commercial operation for a feedlot, it's not permitted in the city. That's my
That goes
opinion.
for cows and goats, both.
Yeah. And it would go for sheep and
Sure,
any pigs.
of course.
What about waste disposal
He said it's
right by Dollar General, a commercial business?
The waste will be handled by hauling it off site
Yeah.
to the farm.
We own a farm on the north side of town here.
Okay,
Yes.
just
It's been
curiosity.
spread in that field right there. And Dollar General's been there. They moved there knowing there was animals there.
Mhm.
There was a discussion when they built it.
Well, I mean, the main downtown area is very close to, so it wasn't just Dollar General I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the whole.
Is the discussion kind of just mute anyways? Because like you said, it's,
Well, I kind of wanted to know
No,
where we
it
were.
still requires a.
I mean, I'm just
council
saying,
vote
because
and
you say we
input from
can't
the
do it in the
public.
city, right? The rules are that you can't have a feedlot in the city.
That's the way I read the ordinance, yes.
But
So,
they're still discussing other options for animals, other animals. Goats is still an option.
yeah, so
Well, as soon as,
13, but if he's
Yeah.
inside, then they're commercial, that's what he said.
goats would be an option if they're pastured. Possibly. But
Right,
even
but-
then, it's still not, well, it's not confinement feeding, but it would still be a commercial raising of animals.
If you're
Inside the city.
rotating,
Hmm?
if you're rotating a few of them on the pasture and feeding the others grain while you're doing, I mean, that's what we did, rotated pasture. And we had pasture through those trees too, so. There's more than 2 point,
The trees on the west,
all the way west of our house,
What's the
just
Yeah.
pasture.
Right here.
We've taken this end over, all that grass. We took the fence down, and the fence has been removed and taken to another farm, but,
when I calculated 2.5 acres, I included that as
okay,
part of the pasture land.
okay.
I did not include any of the buildings or where the house is and the yard that's north of the driveway. I figured that was not being pastured.
Any other discussion on item 7C? Hearing none, is there a motion of any sort from the council?
I move this permit not be approved.
It's a motion made by Steve. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Ordinance.
Second by Doug per ordinance. Discussion?
So can it be approved if they wanna have their goats, their 13 goats or whatever? I mean, otherwise, if they wanna have 13 goats, we should be able to allow them to have their 13 goats.
13 goats pasture.
They got enough room for 13 goats. And if we go with the motion, we're saying they can't have anything. So if they want their 13 goats, I suggest let's at least let them have their 13 goats.
The ordinance was adopted for family use of the animals, not for commercial raising of animals.
Are you selling them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I buy them, I buy
Do
them
you want to
young.
eat them?
I buy them young and I sell them for market,
We eat the beef, yeah.
of course.
Not all of it.
Well,
Not all of it.
So you are selling.
I do buy young kids, feed them up and sell them for profit.
You hope.
You gotta at least make some profit.
You hope.
That's the whole
what's that?
There's no guarantee there's profit. You hope.
Yeah,
$8 quarter, no profit.
yeah, you.
Tyler,
you're
do you
making
sell
money at
money
all.
to any 4-H members ever?
Yeah,
I mean, that's where
Oh,
we
yeah.
started our herd was from Tyler. We bought our first 4-H.
yeah, they bought their first
Would you
goats from us.
still
Yeah.
do that?
Oh, yeah, we sell to people all the time through 4-H.
Oh, yeah, we do.
But that would still constitute the sale.
Well, that's the same way with the kids. I mean,
You
we
can't
sell,
have animals without selling them.
Still commercial.
That would be commercial. Family animals you don't sell, correct? And
No.
that's what would fit
Pets are
inside of
you
our
or
ordinance.
sell.
Any other discussion from the council?
Yeah, that's all the ordinance.
Are there any horses in town?
One goes by my house.
Are they commercial?
There's chickens in town.
Do they raise them?
They,
Calves, or not calves, but
Yes,
horses don't have a butcher market, so they're not viable. They got rid of the butcher, so you can't call them
Where's
butcher
the horses?
slaughters anymore.
One goes down my street quite often, every now and then. I think it comes from up north, but I think it's.
There's one that, what's his name?
I'm not throwing out any names. I know some right down.
what about chickens?
I'm not doing
I
that.
mean, if they lay eggs, are they selling the eggs?
I give mine away.
I have a neighbor just down the street. Betcha.
Well, that's
So
just
what are the other options
breaking
for
ordinance.
Mr. Meyer? Can he request a meeting with planning and zoning? I mean, can he go that far?
Can we
well,
get it rezoned agricultural?
Oh.
good luck.
I think, I would say good luck, but
We don't have an agricultural district in the city. If, right now, the industrial district does not permit the commercial raising of animals. In order to have the commercial raising of animals, it would require amending the zoning ordinance or getting a variance. The variance would be through the Board of Adjustment. And so if the Board of Adjustment says that what you're doing is similar enough to the other things in the district, then they could grant a variance. Once the variance is granted, then it would be up to the council to approve the animals if all other things meet the ordinance requirements, which it looks like you have enough buildings, looks like you have enough exercise space. So you wouldn't be pasturing, you wouldn't have to have that many acres. It would be a doable thing, but the way the ordinance is written now, it's not. And the council could initiate a change in zoning to permit a commercial feeding operation, which, if that's what you would like, it would require a hearing. It'd take about 3 months, maybe 2, in order to get it done. And hearing in front of the council, and everybody in the city would have a chance to have input. And if it's approved, then it would be, if you meet all the ordinance requirements, it would be, the city would be in a position where it would almost would be have to approve it because it meets all ordinance requirements.
Doesn't that open the entire city up to everybody that has ground? You know, put a feedlot on their property then?
That's zoned M1,
Yeah, like, yeah, I'm not-
the blue area up
Yeah.
there.
like you could put 1,000 head of cattle on his place and there's nothing you can do about it. Or McComb's place could be turned into a
If
feedlot.
it's zoned M1,
It is.
is it zoned M1? Does-
They're all blue, aren't they?
Huh? I don't know. Ken's may not be zoned M1.
What are you
So,
saying?
because this is, what this is right here,
That's the sewer.
that's the
plant.
sewer lagoons, and then the M1 stops right here.
And can you tell,
Mine's the top one.
is it the street?
Yep.
For Macomb Drive?
So the blue, yes, that's
That's
McComb.
McComb.
Right here.
Mine
It's not
goes
as far
over
east as
further
McComb.
east. Mine goes over further east. Further.
Right there. This is
You're right at the corner.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, Steve, no.
But anybody in the blue could put a feedlot in.
Anybody in the blue,
So,
if they have, if they can meet all the other ordinance requirements. So your lot might be too small.
yeah, for 1,000 head, yeah.
Well, even
Even
for, you know,
Well, you just have to. do
3 or
the
4
math.
head.
You just have to do the math on it.
Yes.
For your inside, outside space.
So right now, we have a motion to deny this application on the table. We do need to take roll call on that.
Would you like us to pursue changing the ordinance, going through the hearing process to see if a commercial feeding operation would be permitted in an M1 district? Okay. We have the motion on the table and then we'll handle
The other side?
the other.
Okay, so roll call, Steve,
Yes,
Lauren,
and yes is
Yes
to
is to
deny.
deny.
Yep.
Yes.
Megan?
No.
Doug?
Yes.
No.
No.
2 no and 3 yes, right?
Correct.
I'd also move that we institute language in the M1 district that will allow for the commercial raising of animals, provided that they meet the space and housing guidelines.
Motion made by Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Megan. Discussion? Hearing none. Lauren?
And that it be on the next meeting.
On the next meeting, yes.
Lauren? Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yeah.
Steve?
Who seconded that?
3 months.
Me.
Megan?
Megan.
Next
3
meeting.
meetings in 3 months. I think, right, Steve? I think he said.
Takes, we have to publish in the paper and everything. And the zoning commission also needs to meet and advise on this issue. But my hope is that they'll be able to meet within the next couple weeks And then we'll have the language which can be presented to the public at the, what is this? This is May,
May meeting, which would be the first.
May 1st meeting. And if we publish it so that it's possible to approve it in one reading, then we could waive the second and third. If there's a lot of public opposition to it, then we would not waive the second and the third, we would hold other hearings. So this may only delay you a month, or it may take longer than that, or it may not happen at all.
As in, it won't happen at all, what do you mean that?
Well, if
Depending on how.
there's
don't get
public
resolved,
opposition
right?
and the council does not approve the change in the ordinance, then the motion, you'd have to bring back a request that meets the ordinance requirements for pasturing, and so it'd be considerably less.
November through May timeline is really what you look at.
Yeah.
Well, we'll work on that with planning and zoning and bring it back next month for you guys.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody who wishes to leave may leave.
When's the planning zoning? Posted?
They have to set their own
They set their own
meeting.
meetings.
And
My-
when you guys post it too?
Yeah.
So we can tell them, please have a meeting as soon as possible, but that's.
Is there one scheduled then?
There's one scheduled for this Thursday, but that's for Twin Home verbiage, new ordinance. Do we throw that on there?
Is it too late
Be
to
added
add
to
it?
that
I don't
agenda?
have the one.
I think
Put it on for discussion.
there's
if you-
no
What, we
publication
can't hear you,
requirement
everybody else is talking.
that I'm aware of.
No.
Because they are recommended by
I'm so glad.
the council,
Have phones?
so it could be added.
Or have two phones?
Deb, can you make a note to see if they can add that item to Thursday night's meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you. So Thursday night, we'll have hopefully we'll have something going on with the
Okay.
planning and zoning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we need to come in here then?
I can, right? They can come
Planning
to
and
the
zoning
meeting.
meeting?
It's a public meeting.
Yeah.
Public meeting.
Yeah.
So,
What time is that?
it will probably be.
I have no idea. Deb, what time do they normally meet?
They're meeting at 6 because that's what time you guys do.
Okay.
Six.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
All right, I have item 7H up next, discussion action on school accessory building. You should have some emails in your packet going back and forth. We did have Safe Builders go out and take a look at the building. Whether it's 1 foot off, 10 feet off, an inch off, nothing off. We're not 100% sure on that. One, it's going to be hard to find the pins of the property, and two, it's going to be hard to figure out where the end of the road is. Every time that we chip seal that road or repave that road, it gets higher and it gets wider. And so
That has nothing to do with property lines. The paving of the road, the width of the road, has nothing to do with the zoning ordinance that says you have to be a certain amount back from the property line. It's not back from a road. It's
Correct.
back from a property line. Okay,
And so the next step to that would be to survey it. We'd have to spend money to survey either the city or the school. In my opinion, it's not worth the time or the money, whether the city pays for it or the school pays for it. It doesn't matter. Either way, it is taxpayer money. And there's no visibility issues. There's really no issue with where the shed stands right now. We've had discussion that we want to talk about the bigger issue of the of the ditch on that side, and the culverts that need to be cleaned out. I've had that conversation with Chad, and it sounds like that they are, that's on the punch list to get that stuff fixed. But after talking this over with Safe Buildings and Doug, my recommendation, you can see it in there, was not to move forward because it just didn't make sense for cost of time and money. Just doesn't make sense. So that is my personal belief. We should be working with the school, not against the school. And I feel like this last couple of years that we've been butting heads, especially when we start talking about the bus barn project and how that shook down. And so my recommendation is to leave it as is and let the project move forward. Otherwise, we're going to keep pushing the project back, and then we're going to have more and more issues. So it's obviously up to you guys as a council, but that is where I stand.
I think your recommendation is a terrible injustice to the rest of the city.
And why is that?
Because anybody who wants to come in and build a building is required to have a certain setback from their lot lines, and they are required to show where their property lines are. And the school is no different than any other property owner.
I beg to
It may be
differ,
bigger.
100%.
Well, I understand where your position is, and that's wrong.
Up to you, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both public
I have a
entities.
question for, are they trying to build a building on the property line?
It's already.
It's already
They're
there.
wrong,
If
it's
you
already
drive by the track, there's a accessory building for storage.
On the very east side of the football field, corner.
Did they just build it?
Yeah.
This year or last year.
So they built it without a permit?
No.
Oh, I was just saying.
The question is, did they
No.
build it in
compliance.
according to the permit?
It's built according to.
When I bought Metcalf, that little shithole, Schneider had surveyed this town so many frickin' times, and I caught him trying to move pins in my yard even. Schneider's never done a favor for this city. We've paid him a million times, but they went all the way, the road that's just behind you, Steve.
You mean?
Is that Metcalf coming clear down?
Oh,
Went
yeah.
through the old
Yeah.
bus barn?
Yeah.
That's 100% been surveyed and pinned. So you have that survey. If you have one pin in a property, you have the pins. You could pull off Steve's property corner and go and get your pins.
I literally had mine done just 2
Yeah.
weeks ago.
They're there. I mean, they're hard to find, but we found them
We're
out there
gonna
at
have
the Israel's too.
The original one is there.
Jeff, go ahead.
It's a little off, but
Yeah, and so when I talked to Safe Build, Safe Build has no issue with where that building sits. And they're not concerned about it whatsoever, just like Jameson said, they're not concerned about where, there's no line of sight issue. He said that there's potential that could be a few inches off on that one corner, because the shed was lined up with the track and not with the road, which makes complete sense on how you're gonna build that, right? You're gonna build that along so it's even with the track and not necessarily parallel with that road, so that sets perfect with your track. And
You don't, yeah,
not
but
necessarily with.
you're trying to change rules because they put the track in there.
I'm not changing
There's
anything.
no rules being changed.
But I mean, if the ordinance says you have to be so many feet setback, that's it. And that's for fire, snow, everything. Quit changing if your ordinance says something, stay with it. There's a reason why all those rules are in there.
There's no changing.
Are they in the setback?
That's what has to be. If we go
That's what we're
forward with that,
discussing.
that's what we have to get surveyed.
They
Are
do. The school
are the
does.
pins there now? Has
The
it been
pins are gonna be
located?
there, you guarantee
Because some of the
that.
neighbors indicated, at one point, we were talking about closing that part of Woodlawn and giving more space doing that. Maybe you don't remember that, but the neighbors that live there certainly that's very vivid in their mind that there was that option. And only one house didn't have a driveway that could be elsewhere off of the street. But they said that somebody came, probably Snyder, before any dirt was moved, before anything had happened, and found the pins in their yard. And they thought too, they found all the pins in there. Remember, there used to be a road that went right at the 50-yard line of the football field, because that was all housing at one point, from what I
An
understand.
alley, yes.
An alley, okay. And the people living there watched them physically pull pins out of those places. So the pins were found. It's just a matter, and I have no problem with the shed at all. I'm certainly not saying that. But if it's beyond where it should be, and we need to find out where that should be, a variance needs to be issued to allow that to happen.
My problem is we're hearing from the inspector that there's no issue with the building. But we're gonna sit here and we're going to essentially chastise the school and Chad about where that building may be, even if it's off by 2 inches or 3 inches. That's an issue. Again, we're butting heads with a school, another public entity, another tax-paying entity, or taxpayer entity.
If it was me building, would you say the same thing, or would I have to comply?
We have those issues all over town,
But I mean,
but it's also a public entity.
so right now, if I wanted to stay, I'm gonna go out there and add on to my shed and I'm gonna come into the city's property. You're okay with it?
Are you gonna give me a plat that's gonna be approved by planning and zoning?
Well,
Because this has
whoever-
already been approved by planning and zoning where it stands.
But they still have rules in planning and zoning. They have to follow setbacks. We ran into this when I was on P and Z because people before just happy and did whatever. You can't break, you have rules in a book for a reason. Follow them, stay with them, or change them completely.
And
You're
we
gonna
are.
end up having a mess down the road if you don't.
We are.
I'm not saying fight the school. I don't even know the building. I'm just saying that book is your Bible. Use it.
100%.
So if
100%.
they're in the setback, tear it down, build it back where it should be.
Okay, so you're gonna give out more money of your taxpaying dollars for the school to spend on what may or may not even be a mistake, a 3-inch mistake. To me, that makes 0 sense.
Yeah, I don't think they should have spent the money, but that's another story. But the thing about it is, Steve's right, when they need to follow, you need to follow your guidelines, no matter what.
And there is a way to have an exception. We could get a variance if it is.
If it's still pushes, it's not
So
bothering
the other,
anybody.
the other option is for the city to contact Safe Build and say, we're good where it's at. Okay, we understand that there's a concern. We've had that conversation with the school district, and moving forward, we'll make sure that the school district.
Which has already happened.
Will.
But
I mean,
legally,
we've already had
I'm,
that.
I'm still talking, okay? And moving forward, school district, we'll have that conversation, we'll meet and work together better, right? So that is an option too, which is an option that I discussed with Safe Build. So you can move forward without spending money, and either party will not have to spend any money whatsoever, and we can move forward and we can finish our building and be done.
But once you're trying to say you're just gonna go ahead and keep going, knowing it's wrong, maybe.
Correct. Yeah,
So I'm gonna build on a machine
because
shed.
Safe Build, there's
But
no
you're
issue with
different.
Safe Build.
You're not a public entity. I mean, there's a huge difference between here and the fact that we're talking, it's completely off the roadway. I mean.
Which building is it?
It's not even.
Oh, yeah, that's the old,
Yeah, that's.
that's pre-$10 million, right?
That wasn't $10 million.
The project wasn't the project.
The school was 8.
Trying to get under your skin.
Well, that's correct. Then.
But I mean, if you just gotta follow variances, or if you gotta get a variance, you gotta read the property anyway. So they gotta find the stakes to give you the right to do that. So that's on the school or the builder to find those pins and be able to give accurate numbers.
Safe Building says that, the building,
The school's abstract
uh,
doesn't have the property line.
meets all zoning ordinance requirements. Possibly, it might be 3 inches off because of the orientation of the building. To me, it appears as though the building is sitting right on the right-of-way line, maybe right inside. Maybe not, it's hard to say because it's so close. I don't know why the zoning ordinance in the R2 district, I don't know where in the zoning ordinance in the R2 district it permits a building to sit on a property line adjacent to a street. Now, my suggestion a month ago was to get Safe Building in here and sit down with us and tell us how they interpret the ordinance to permit the building to be where it is. And so far, Safe Building hasn't been in to, talk to us. Maybe my suggestion that they come in didn't get, passed on to them, I have no idea. But, we have, Wes here, who reviewed the site plan. And, but Snyder was reviewing the site plan for stormwater and everything else. Safe Building's responsibility was zoning compliance. I want to know from Safe Building how they approved that building, where they did, how they interpreted the ordinance for it to be permitted. If they made an error, acting as the city's representative, then that's our problem and not the school's problem. If, but I need to know why that building is permitted so close to the property line. I can't find any place in the ordinance that permits it, but they're the experts. They have the responsibility for administering the zoning ordinance on behalf of the city. So I'd say we table this matter, we get Safe Building in here, we have them explain to us what the ordinance requires, and it may be that, hey, the building's just fine, and if we're talking about inches, there are probably a lot of places in town that are inches off. If we're talking about dozens of feet, that's an issue.
Fire trucks are going on.
So we're gonna add electric to the building now. We're not gonna stop our work, so, I mean.
Do you have
it's
a,
not-
you have
it's
a
not
stop
dozens
work
of-
order?
No, it's not
Okay.
dozens of feet, it's inches. So I mean,
Maybe.
I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill here.
I would agree.
A law is a law, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
The
law for
school
this
district
one-
is good for the community, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think we gotta look bigger picture here. The community needs a school, just like the school needs a community, right? So I think there's more to it than.
The very first thing
your
I
law
did when I
ordinances.
bought my house, and I'm sure that almost everybody is in that same boat, is I paid to have a survey so that I knew where my pins were, so that I knew where my property line was. And I cannot understand why the school doesn't do the same thing. We're talking, it cost me $200 to do it. Yeah, we're talking about $200.
No.
No, not anymore. It would cost you a lot more than that.
Well, it's
No,
already
not
been-
if the
it's already
pins
been
are already
done, though.
there.
No, it's still costing them.
Yep.
But the city can find their own pins too. You have that
Yep.
right. And the pins have already been found. They're all down Metcalf and they've been spotted. Plus on the other side of the street, and then you just triangulate the numbers. You don't need Schneider, you don't need. I mean, it came down to a legal lawsuit. We're gonna tear that building down now because it's out of compliance. Yes, then you need to have Schneider come in and pull a hard survey 3 directions for the lawsuit. So all I'm saying, if it's out of order, if it's out of compliance, it was built wrong. Whoever did it, who cares? If the builder did it, it's on the builder. Tear it down, put it where it should be. It's
At
just like.
3 inches though, well, you would tear down a building,
Inches a
you would
mile.
rip out concrete for 3 inches.
Could you buy
Yes.
the land?
Yes.
Where it's just against the.
It's in
road,
the right of way,
Yeah, I mean.
possibly.
we're-
We don't
we're-
even know if it's in the right of way.
What we're dealing with here is we're spending more time on this than we ever needed to be spending time on. It's wasting our time, it's wasting taxpayers' money. I mean,
From the precedent it sets, I don't agree with your conclusion.
That's
the
fine.
only thing, that's
So-
my only piece in this, is that we, and I agree, I don't want to tear that building down. But we just threw an ordinance book Pat, Mr. Meyer. We throw ordinance books at people all the time, and now we are outside of it. I feel as if that is what is going to, we're saying it's okay for one person and not the other because they're a public entity, and I don't want to tear the school down. This is hard. This is tough. This will be tough for anyone involved making a decision.
That's why if we find out, we need to find out. And if it's beyond where it should be, then we go to planning and zoning, which I would certainly hope would issue a variance and say, in this case, we will make an exception because who knows what happened where.
Well, if they relied on the city's approval of their site plan, then
it's on us. We certainly owe them a variance.
Yeah.
If the air is city representation, then yes.
There's been buildings tore down in Ames, Iowa State, tore down a $3.5 million building because it was 7 inches off. I was in college when they did that.
Fortunately, we're not Ames.
No, but I'm just saying, there's a reason why you have that book and they have tape
Ungodly
measures.
amounts of money, and they do ungodly amounts of things like those little colored lights on Theory that cost them millions of dollars a piece.
Can't even see them
No,
because
so
it's too big.
we're not Ames, we're Maxwell, Iowa.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, but if you follow the book, Steve's 100% right. You gotta find out first. Do like you said, city can, or these guys can get the survey, you can pull up Schneider's thing, you might already have the pins where you want them. Go find one pin, do the measurements.
So I think too, if we do this, then we need to pull every permit that we've done in the last 5 years.
Exactly. No, that's ridiculous.
And if somebody's 3 inches off, we're gonna have to give them a variance. I mean.
You're
That's
making them
ludicrous.
out of a molehill.
We were doing,
What do you mean?
we were doing that to begin with.
I think Deb has her hand up.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I talked to two different safe building people. The first one told me that the plans were approved at 11.85 feet from the property line. The second one told me that, yes, it was approved at that, but the property owner has to prove where the property line is to make sure that everything is where it is to be. Now, I've been talking to Wes here, and he showed me that they have found the property pins on the other side of the road, and it would be fairly easy to project or to decide where that property line is.
Yeah,
And that would be,
the original site plan showed pins on the east side of the road as found. So assuming that nothing got disturbed over there with construction, those should still be there. So, and they found all 3 of those. So from a surveying perspective, they can establish that line. The width of the right of way is a fixed 60 feet, I think maybe. So they can establish the right of way line on the west side of the right of way and then determine the distance where that building sits in relation to the property line. So it should be fairly
Easy.
Easy. Surveyors hate it when I tell them it's easy, but but it looks like it would be fairly simple to establish where that building is in relation to the property line using the pins on the east side of the road.
so we're talking about hundreds of dollars?
Oh, depends on the surveyor you get to do it. Bishop is the surveyor for the site plan for the school. They have this data from their site plan planning. We may have it in our files from other surveys, but I know Bishop has it from this. So if the school is going to do it, school would be probably recommended to just go to Bishop and say, hey, can you check this for us? Because they would have all that data from their topo survey that they did before the project design started. I'm hesitant to give out a cost because I'm not a survey guy to know what their costs are, but it's tough to get anything done for a few $100 anymore. Sometimes it seems like the answering the phone costs $1,000, but
How long does it take?
they can do it in a day, less than a day.
That can be done in a day, like scheduling.
Scheduling, well, that's up to the,
That's what I mean, yeah.
the surveyors, yeah, how busy they are, and we're going to get in the construction season where everybody wants everything staked. So, but it shouldn't be a big job. They should be able to slip it in somewhere.
We ask property owners to provide property lines for any construction they do. We should be doing the same thing for the school.
Which was provided when we did the project, right? When we did the stadium project. That was
Well,
all
on a
provided.
drawing you did now. did you follow the drawing? And that's what you find out by going out in the field and physically finding your property line. And when you find your property line, then you'll know whether or not the building was built according to the plan, as opposed to, did the contractor make any mistakes in the location? I'm sure your contractor wouldn't have, because it's a reputable contractor.
All right, any other discussion?
What was the motion?
There was no motion.
What is the action that is?
It's discussion and action on school accessory building. So there could be a motion to not do anything. There could be a motion to find the property line and prove to the city. Could be a motion to table the item.
Well, I move that the school find the location of the property line out in the field and verify to the city that the building has been built according to plan. And we're not talking about a problem of a few inches. And I want Safe Building to come in here and point out to the council why a street setback requirement seems to be less than what the ordinance requires. Because the setback from the street in the R2 district, from the property line, not from the street, but the yard setback adjacent to a street is 30 foot. And they approved a site plan that was 11 and a half feet. So there must be something in the ordinance that they were following. I'd just like to know what it is so that we know that in the future.
So a motion made by Steve. Is there a second?
I will second it so we know.
Second by Doug. Discussion? Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
No.
Megan?
Nope.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
No.
So where does that leave the school?
Right now, you don't have to find.
Stop work order. Tell us all. It becomes a legal issue then.
I think the email's already been sent
Yep.
to Safe Build if the questions have been taken back. So we will move forward. Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Chad.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, moving on.
I don't know. I think the mayor exceeded his authority in this and should be reprimanded, telling Safe Buildings that they should just forget the whole thing. And so I move that the mayor be reprimanded for not following the zoning ordinance requirements.
What did the email? I don't want. What did your email say to Safe Buildings?
I can read it. I said, I called a concerned council person as well as the school, and we believe that moving forward would cost time and money with no real benefit. There will be questions on where pins as well as where the road ends that I do not believe it is in our best interest to further investigate. Talked to Chad Grandin at the school, and we did discuss the culvert issue on the east side of the stadium, which will be fixed within the punch list items. Should you have any questions, feel free to reach out. That's what I said.
As a citizen, can I say something?
Not until there's a
Not
second.
until there's a second.
Dies for lack of a second. I would still like to have Safe Building come in and explain to us their interpretation of the ordinance that would allow a building within 11 feet of the property line.
Now, now,
Yes.
I do feel that since your previous employer was the school,
It's a conflict of
that
interest.
you
Yeah, I hear
have
that
a
a lot.
conflict of
Perfect.
interest
Yeah.
and you have a
Because I was making all the
preference.
money, guys. Perfect. Okay.
But
Moving
I
on.
voted no against it, and I've never worked for the school.
No, but he came up with this.
No.
I came up with
I-
what?
I-
Hold on. Let's listen. Let's
You
listen.
were
I
the
came-
one who read the letter in the beginning and have been pushing for it to go forward.
Read the letter in the
as
beginning.
is.
What letter in the
What
beginning?
you just read.
He wrote
The
it.
email?
Wrote that.
He wrote that.
The
He wrote
email
that.
that I sent off,
Right.
that I
To
also
who?
talked to another council person about and sent it off
Did you
to
talk
Safe
to the whole
Builders.
council or just one person?
I talked to the concerned council person that brought it up to the city council.
He did
Okay,
state in
but
the
I'm
email
still
that the
saying-
discussion would happen this evening.
No,
And
what
it was
I'm-
just his belief.
Lauren, I'm talking right now. Could you wait until I'm done?
Mm-hmm.
I would appreciate it if you would take that into consideration in the future, that you don't give preferential treatment to the school versus
I'm
a
not giving
citizen.
preferential treatment, and I'm not gonna accept that. I apologize, but I'm not going to accept that. So we're going to move on to,
Time out.
yeah,
So to make this, he had a motion.
It died.
Don't we?
There was no
It
second.
died.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody.
And I want
Don't we have
to
to,
express my 100% support for Jameson. I do not believe that he is showing preferential treatment in any way. I just think that this decision was inappropriate, and that it's going to come back and bite the city in the future, because anybody else who wants to come in and build a building and doesn't want to show their property line can just go back to Jameson's letter and say, well, yeah, it's going to cost money, and so therefore I don't want to do it. I just think it's bad policy. But that's me.
all right, we are going to move on to item 5D, fire department report. Looks like number of calls for 10 was 63 people, mutual aid 4, Indian Creek 2, Washington 3, and 1 storm spotting. Air packs and jaws have been serviced. Injuries or accidents, none. Special events, none. Anything the city needs to do, no. Anything for Tony on the fire department side?
fire whistles went off Wednesday.
Mhm.
Sounded great out at my place. I was inside the house, so.
I have a question on the first Saturday. I could not hear any sirens. Did they go off?
Yes, that
Yes,
was
they
a
did.
Didn't hear
Thursday.
Because I was in the house. No, I don't hear it. And I,
You had your TV up too loud.
no,
They're not meant for indoor warning sirens. They are outdoor warning sirens.
why?
They're outdoor warning sirens. That's what
Before I
they're
could hear it until you changed them.
You should
we
have
were-
heard them.
So why?
for. No, I hear them at my.
I heard
One-
at the community
It's in
I
my
heard him
house.
at North Street.
There's one right here, right?
Yep.
There's one on sewer.
Yep.
And the one on sewer, of course, isn't in my backyard, but
All right, moving on, EMS report. Total EMS page outs to Maxwell, 11 pages. Maxwell responded to 8. Average EMS personnel per call, 1 to 2. Fire persons assist, 1. EMS monthly meeting attendance, 8. Monthly truck check was complete. CQI was completed by Story County Medical. The Tahoe build is complete. Tahoe will be going back to Carl's on Tuesday to fix the decals on the back door. CPR class was a success. 11 people attended from fire and EMS training. Anything that Scott needs to know on the EMS side?
Yes. They have 11 calls. How many of them are in Indian Creek? how many in Washington Township, and how many are in Maxwell. We've asked for that information now for 4 months and still are not getting it. Without that information, we're not going to be able to budget for them next year.
I will ask. Anything else for Scott?
Who's on the committee for the fire and EMS?
Myself.
Not I.
No, I don't think, am I?
No, you're my guy.
I don't know who else. I know I am.
Would you encourage them to include that in their report as we've been asking?
Yes.
Scott,
I see Tony did, so.
Yes.
Very good. Yes.
Scott does know. He just sent over or I don't know if it's last year's or the last couple months to Deb, is what he told me last month or 2 months ago. No, was it all last year's?
Yeah,
That he
the
sent
last
over?
one he sent was last year.
So we can figure it out for the budget. Is that what he sent over?
Yeah, but you send it over out
But we
too
want to
late.
know monthly. Okay.
That's
Steve,
why
you're also
we
EMS.
we ask that it be done every month, because if you're sitting there saying, yeah, we made 11 calls, well, it's going to be a lot easier to say that those 11 calls were in these 3 locations, as opposed to at the end of the year going back and trying to figure out where they were.
Got it.
Keep it moved by month.
Anything else for Scott on the MS side? Hearing none, we'll go to library report. Looks like total books were 227, movies 77, attendance total is 318, adult 151, children 60, 2 movie attendance at 40, STEM attendance at 9, spring party 43, author visit 15. Total bridges 126, on hold 78. Anything for the library board?
I see there have a number of upcoming events. And do they need a meeting space for doing some of these, like the petting zoo, and is that going to be out in the field someplace?
The petting zoo is just gonna be like a couple of bunnies and a couple chicks.
Ah. And they have enough room for these activities. They haven't asked for any addition, right?
Right.
Okay.
Anything else for the library board? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to public works. Looks like I need to know what to do on Baldwin Street. Going to have to spend some money to fix up some concrete on the north end if it's not going to get redone this year. Going to start filling potholes. We'll open restrooms if the weather stays warm at the park. Pumped about 1.5 million gallons. Sold about 1.1 million gallons. Have around 20 radios left to do. Pumped 2.5 million gallons. Anything for Tony on the city side?
When he says 20 radios.
What do the radios have to do with the water?
That's the
endpoints.
Yeah.
They're
endpoints.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Wes, what are we going to do about that failure in front of that's an old trench across the street? It's sinking down.
Is this on the Baldwin?
Yeah.
I guess I haven't looked at it. It's one of our potholes that's getting worse. Is that?
No,
it's a replacement chunk of concrete.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's on your
Where
mind.
a trench was done.
The W utility
for some
across?
property owner a few years ago.
Just so happen to be the mayor, so you can yell at me.
No, you weren't the mayor at the time, right?
No, that's true.
Honestly, it
would be a
happens.
conflict of
It was
interest
just
for me.
some.
It's not uncommon to see subsidence over under trenches or over trenches. It's a common thing, and under pavement just makes it worse because you notice it.
Sure.
It's pretty pronounced.
Yeah, it's pretty pronounced. So the proper fix would be a fold up patch where you take and you cut out the patch piece, you pull the concrete out, you backfill and compact a rock base to fill up what's settled and pour a patch of concrete back over top of it.
And can we just put cold patch in it?
Depends on the size. Typically full depth patch, you can't do an HMA full depth patch. If it's a small area, how wide is the trench? We're talking 3 feet
We're probably
usually.
talking
Yardstick.
2 feet wide,
I'd say more than that,
2.5, 3 feet.
3 or 4.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's probably gonna take a little more than what you get with cold patch, but it would be a
bigger
small
than you
load
think,
of
that's
either
not-
concrete or HMA.
I guess when you fly over it, going speeding.
Yeah, everything looks smaller when you're going 50 miles an hour.
35.
Right, 35.
It's in a 25 zone.
Oh, it's 25. Okay, well, it's still going 35.
Still looks smaller than when you're standing there.
Maybe that's part of the
But
problem in town with the speeders. We have so many different speed limits, it
Um,
seems like.
Not super well posted either.
Well, Tony's gonna get out and start filling the potholes. If we have somebody come in with a load of what'd you say, essentially asphalt, and cover that area. Would it be, as long as they're coming in and doing that, to have them fill the potholes also?
you could, that'd be a Band-Aid fix for sure.
Well, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah,
because
because if we're gonna be back in there to you're tearing it out and doing it right. Not being a super good pavement guy. Let me take a look at it and see, but that very well could get us by for the year. At least wouldn't be any worse than any of the other areas on Baldwin.
So are we definitely postponed to next year with the building? I know that's coming later, but.
Yeah, I think so.
How we do this.
I think so. That's kind of what we talked about last time, but at this point, it would still be a lot of construction next year anyway, to get started at this point. But yeah, the who do you have coming in to do your pothole?
Well, Tony was just gonna do cold patch.
Oh, Tony, okay. All right, you're just gonna do cold patch.
Yeah. But if we're having somebody come in with some asphalt that's hot mix essentially, and a rolling machine to compact it, then should we just have them hit all the potholes at the same time?
You could, yeah. It might
Is
be
that
worth getting a price to see
cost
what, for a year's worth of surviving. It'll last a year. Is it? Obviously, we'd rather just get the road built, but be interesting to see what they would charge for something like that.
On your way out of town,
I go out that way anyway, so.
go 35 miles an hour and you'll notice
Yep.
it. And you'll get a ticket, which helps the city. But,
I'm trying to get any more of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it and see, and let you know.
and then just let Tony know what you feel the best solution is.
Anything else on the public works side? Hearing none. City clerk, looks like they're still working on FEMA. Cat Z is submitted. We should be done waiting for last payment. Second meters will be going out. Council should start the employees review, so the raises will go into effect in July. Penny Musburger was in with an electrician and furnace people to get cost on a remodel. Working on a budget amendment for 22-23 fiscal year. Anything for Deb or Dee on that side?
What do we have in the budget for remodel for City Hall?
30,000. A little bit less because they said that the sidewalk way out here came out with that.
Okay.
So 20 cents less than 30.
And so that's how much money, but now what work are we looking at from Kenny?
I don't know.
That's-
Has
We're
he
not sure. I
submitted-
think that's
has
what
he
we're-
submitted
Yeah,
anything?
he hasn't
He hasn't.
sent it
The
back.
remodel committee is kind of just putting some
Okay,
numbers together. for
remodel
us.
committee's in charge of that. Okay. Sounds good to me. One less thing for me to worry about.
Engineer report, Wes, you're up.
Whoop, wait a minute. Budget report. Deb, some of these things are going to be handled by budget amendment. The ambulance is way over, but that's because of the purchase of the ambulance, right? And the council is all has identified funds for that. Building inspectors are over. Is that because a lot of building permits or because we've been using them a lot on other things?
Most of it's because we've had bigger building permits like the school, there's been a couple of big ones. So we're higher.
Okay, so our revenue is also higher for that?
Yeah.
Okay. Roads and sidewalks, we're at 100% on that. And that, and we're 3/4 of the way through the year. And so that was one of the things that we're going to do a budget amendment on.
Yes.
And it's that high because we did extra on the paving.
On the paving and dust control.
Okay. Which is also on the agenda for later. Snow removal is way high. And that's because we had more snow than what we anticipated.
Because you bought that cab for that tractor.
Oh, the cab for the tractor. Cab. Parks is way over 100%, and that's purchases that we did for the trees, which also had some additional reimbursement, and the
rodeo committee or the rodeo grounds.
The rodeo grounds, which was approved by the council, and the garbage cans.
Yes.
Which we're also getting additional revenue. Mayor, council, manager, that's at 100%, 3/4 of the way through the year. Did we have too many meetings?
Yes.
Is that what it's from?
Yeah, that one would be, yeah, the
Huh?
Yeah, that's mostly your guys' pay.
Okay.
In December.
We just need to have fewer meetings.
Yes.
And the last one is under capital projects, roads, bridges, sidewalks. $64,000 is how much we've spent out of a $5,000 budget. And
You have to talk to us about that because I get his bills.
So what was it?
For Baldwin project.
Baldwin project expenses? Okay. I just couldn't remember what the specifics were. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on the city clerk side? All right, Wes.
All right, we'll make this quick. Baldwin Street reconstruction, we talked about that a little bit. We are right now kind of in a holding pattern until we determine if the water plan, or if the water replacement is still something we want to pursue, and how we want to address the CDBG funding drop.
Has Tiana talked to you?
I have not talked to Tiana. If I need to give her a call, I can follow up with her.
Were you included in the email that
recently
went to her just recently?
I don't think so. No. Didn't
Okay.
see it. I'll double check and make sure it didn't fall in my email black hole, but
Well, it may be that it just went to the mayor, the city clerk, and Tiana.
Yeah, so if there's anything that you need me to respond to, let me know.
But it's just asking her to be involved
With that decision
on the financing side after we had a meeting with Ehlers.
Yeah. And so we can certainly just resubmit to the CDBG the next available cycle and hope it comes out differently. Or we look at adding more project to increase our odds is one of the recommendations that the CDBG administrator recommended, which better odds, but you add cost. So, how we want to proceed there, I don't know if there's a good answer.
So if we go after more or extend,
What,
what does that do to any other deadlines?
so the recommendation, is that one of the things that they feel like we were scored lower on this time, whether it would have made a difference or not, we don't know, but is that the project was on the small end, like we were bare minimums. So what they look for, the score higher, is if there's a greater benefit to more people, and that scores higher. Greater benefit to more people means you're replacing more water main. You replace more water main means you have more cost. I do think that did change here recently, and I need to confirm that with him. That I think we're no longer capped at 300,000. It used to be based on population size. If I understand right, I think everybody's capped at 500,000 now. So it's regardless of community size, you're capped at 500,000. So we were only asking for 300. Small size, they prefer larger projects. But to add more cost, it's still a match, right? So if we add $200,000 in project budget, we need to, it adds $200,000 to our side of the project as well.
Well, we right now are locally financing almost 900,000. And so what you're talking, if I understand you correctly, instead of 900,000, we'd be financing locally 700,000. Because we're already financing the match.
Except you'd have to make the project bigger. So you'd have to replace mains on North Street or further down on Baldwin to benefit more people, make the beneficiary pool larger.
I don't think there's enough benefit to justify the cost.
And that might be a question maybe for Tony, is if there's history of breaks in that area, main issues, valve issues, that kind of thing, to justify replacing it. I don't think you want to replace it just to replace it to get our project bigger. That doesn't make any sense at all. So you want to make sure that if there's actually need for it. So, so I can talk to Tony on that and see if there's, I don't know how they would look at if we went to a completely different part of town and added in a water main replacement on that side of town, how they would look at that. Yeah. So, yeah, that's where I'm not quite sure the best way to recommend how to go, because we're trying to keep costs down and then we're talking about making it bigger. There is some time factor involved with making it bigger as well, because it's not in the plans now. We have to edit the plans, make it part of the contract. That takes time, more money. Or we leave the water main like it is, pull it out of the project, and just take that cost out of the project and just do the street. Be the low option.
All those decisions need to be made as part of the financing package.
Yep. Because the loss of that $300,000, that also offset $300,000 of the paving project. So there's about $200,000 in the paving project. But, yeah. So that one, like I said, we're kind of in a holding right now. There's a couple things that we were pushing real hard to get done. We kind of slowed back on those because the urgency isn't there, and that's the environmental clearance, which is going on right now, just slower, and then the right-of-way acquisition for the storm outlet, kind of waiting to see on that one. So anything on Baldwin, questions? Anything I need to get to you guys?
Jameson, did the email on financing make sense to you?
I don't think, is that the one that you sent
To Tiana and you?
last week?
Yeah.
I don't think I've read it all the way through yet.
Okay.
So
Well, we can talk about it later. I sent a copy just now to you.
I just heard it ding. Yep, I'll take a look at it. If I can offer any input on my side, I will. High school improvements, we discussed a lot of that. Sounds like a lot of the punch list items that we've talked about previously are being addressed, or will be. There was a question raised last time on the parking requirements. Doug, I don't know if you got your answer on that. I did include in here what they had calculated from the parking requirements from the site plan. The required parking based on the ordinance appears that they're exceeded that with what they say they're adding in. The daytime school parking required calculation comes out to 88 stalls. Evening comes out to 59 stalls. That's per ordinance. I'm not saying that's a good or bad number. That's just what the ordinance says required. Their calculations for what was ultimately provided after everything's all said and done, high school improvements and stadium, was around 200 stalls. So
this is off-street parking, correct?
I don't know how they counted these numbers because we don't see, there's this, the parking to the north doesn't show up on the site plan. So the way they did the way they did the calculations is they said, like, so for the 21 school improvements, there were 151 existing stalls and they were adding 43 new ones. We know the 43 new ones they added, it's in that new parking lot on the southwest corner of the school. The 151, I don't have a confirmation of that count that was existing. I don't know if it includes on-street parking or not.
It almost have to include on-street parking, in which case, they can't count that as part of their required. There's 75 parking spaces around the school on the street. And you said they had how many?
Prior to the school improvements, they were claiming 151 existing stalls. So if they took 75 out of that, that would leave 75. They added 43. So now you're looking at 120-ish. Doing math quick in my head, that would still exceed the 88 stalls that are required per code. So in that letter there, I showed you what I've got there. If you want to count stalls and confirm, or if you need us to, I can do that too. But I don't know if you want to pay an engineer to go count stalls. So that's the calculations that they had in there.
Okay, thanks for doing that.
Yep. Water treatment plant study that is underway. We've got a couple engineers working on that right now, so that'll be a recommendation for how we can meet compliance with the new permit for the discharge of the backwash from the filters at the water treatment plant. My suspicion is it's going to be a pump to the city system because I don't think we want to build a new treatment on top of the water treatment. Just we'll look at the numbers and what the anticipated cost of that might be. So you'll have that information, but I'm going to guess it was cheaper to pump it to the city sewer than it is to build a new treatment. So, but that'll be coming here. I'd still owe you the Woodlawn stormwater scope and fee proposal. That's coming from our stormwater guys, and so I've been bugging them to get that, but I will get that to you. A lot of the other stuff is some of the basic stuff that's not a lot of movement on. The tree care, the GIS mapping. One thing I needed is, do we have a phasing plan, or do you want us to put together a phasing plan for which trees you want to do, which years on the tree care?
You're talking about the 100 tree
Yeah.
removal?
Yep.
The council discussed the possibility of dividing it into 4 groups of 25 trees each, and so that you could bid separately. It may all go to the same person, it may not.
Yeah.
But that seemed like.
And is that done over the next 4 years then?
No.
Or all done?
All done
Okay.
in 1 year, because they're all dead. And they're creating a public hazard by staying there. Do we want to use the map and decide which 25 works best, or
and we
have the tree vendors come in and pick their 25, or their group of 25?
So what's the bid include?
Pardon?
What's the bid include?
Removing the tree and grubbing out the stump. and then, putting some dirt on and, seeding.
And cleaning up.
Yeah.
Clean up, okay.
Is it all removal or are there some trims as well?
All, this is 100
Just removal.
trees, all removal. Got 100 dead trees in the right of way. My feeling is that the ones on Main Street, since that's 210, and it's gonna require working with the DOT, that those trees be one group, and then work, just-
Including Baldwin, and because of the county line, or county, that's not there, but,
well,
I mean, it's a busy street, that's why.
it's a busy street, but we don't have to worry about the DOT.
Right, right.
The DOT, my
We're just talking
guess,
about
is
Fifth
going to
Street,
have
Main Street.
signing requirements and.
Typically, they have a work in the right of way permit.
Yeah.
For that kind of thing. That'll cover the signing. If you need traffic control, they'll include any requirements they have on that. We can have the contractor do that, or we can help you guys do that ahead of time too.
I mean, all those are good safety items, but I'm not sure that they're needed anyplace else in town.
I agree that Main Street, Fifth Street should be one bid alone, and then you can chop it up any other way you want.
Do we want to chop it up, or we
Even if
want
it's
to ask for
40
two of
trees
the,
and not 25 or whatever, but
can we ask, the tree people to come in and
I think
advise
you better
us?
put bids out there. There's a lot of tree companies, and I know they're all busy, not just local ones, but even out of town ones, but.
Sure, everybody's taking down ash trees.
I think it'd be easy to just sit down and say, okay, we're coming out. Block 1, block 2.
Do you have a map with all the dots?
So we got the information from you guys and put them into your GIS background. So
We could get
they're on
that
there. So
and then divide it ourselves.
so we can.
Yeah,
we
you
can get
provided it in 3 sheets on a PDF.
Yeah, because it's all in GIS. So I mean, we could also take a crack at kind of zoning it for you guys, and you guys just edit it if you want us to do that. Just in the getting an exhibit out, but and I can get you a better map if you want to see a whole picture of it too. And get you a big large sheet.
Yes, do that.
Okay.
Save money though if we did it ourselves.
Yeah, I volunteer.
Well, are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. I think it's silly to spend
You
money when
have,
you
you
don't
have
have
some,
to.
construction background?
Yes,
And contracting background?
yes.
So, the access to the, GIS, page,
It has issues right now.
I volunteer to do it.
But
I volunteer to do it. Give it to me. You got my email? I can get it to you.
think so. But yeah, if you want.
I'll do it.
the 3 pages that they provided show all the trees that need to be removed, but there's a little bit of a problem in that, I don't believe, the pages are razor cut. I think there's a little bit of overlap.
There's overlap, yes.
And
Yeah.
so you get to the edge of the map and some of the trees
And you're
you see
into the
there
other
are
map.
also on the
Yeah,
other page.
that's not a problem.
So I can, it doesn't take any time at all to go in there. It's a GIS, so you pop it open, you change your view, and I can send you a map that has everything all in one big giant sheet.
All right.
Yeah,
Whether it's
because on a,
PDF
on
or
a
a hard copy.
PDF, you can zoom in and.
Yep. Not a big deal.
And you have software that'll let you.
Change my PDF?
Yeah, mark up the PDF. Great. Perfect.
Okay, we'll get that to you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Wes? Maybe the city engineer said. Parks and open spaces, anything on that?
Item 7A, discussion and action on Betterment Award nominees. In front of you do have a packet of those folks being nominated.
I was pleasantly surprised by the quality and thoughtfulness of all of the nominees, except for one. And I think it's going to be very difficult to pick out one out of these five possibilities. And I wonder if have we ever thought about giving out a Betterment Award for an individual and a Betterment Award for a group in the same year? Because if we want to do that, then I think the rodeo committee and George Jones certainly would qualify as a group and as an individual. But if we want to just go with one, then
I thought 2 or 3 years ago, maybe now, it might have been 3 years ago, we did nominate 2 different individuals.
It's up on the plaque.
So I was thinking.
We did Nancy
well, let's see.
and
Kathy.
Ron
Or
Basie.
Ron Basie.
Okay, and I think, didn't we once do Roman Smith and somebody else also? We did 2 that year also.
Well, we did Kathy and Tara.
Okay, I was
but
thinking we did Roman
yeah,
also.
and we did a single single entry, but we did. You're right. We gave out 2 certificates, but there are 2 on there for 2020, 2019, 2018, 2015. So
I think it would
we've
be
done that
too
before.
hard. Yeah, I would think it would be too hard to pick just one from this group. I think it's going to be too hard to pick 2 from this group, but
Yeah,
we can narrow it down, and then 2 next year. We can have a head start for next year.
The reason that I like the rodeo and George Jones. Let's take George Jones first. For the years of effort that he's put into everything, not to say that he's getting long in the tooth, but for the years of effort, he's been a steady, hard worker, and for all the reasons in the description, has certainly provided a lot of service. So that's why I looked at him, which is nothing to say negative about Joe Peters, other than the fact that she's a little bit younger and may have more opportunities to be awarded a Betterment Award in the future. And between the Thursday Morning Coffee Club and the Rodeo Committee, if we didn't have a rodeo, we probably wouldn't have any centers. The Rodeo Committee does a lot in keeping that area up to date. They do additional things other than the rodeo. They have saddle clubs, they have barrel racing, and they put in a lot of effort. So I would recommend that the council consider George Jones and the Rodeo Committee as the Betterment Award winners for this year. I don't know what other people think.
I agree. With that.
So
Since you agree, I'll move it and you can second it.
Okay,
Or
I
you
didn't
can
know we
move it
had
and
to
I'll
move
second
it. I didn't know we had to do that. Okay.
You want to have more of a conversation?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. My nomination was, and it can be considered a group, but it was a couple. Miss Jody Gast has put in a lot of work into trees for the park. Parks and open spaces is obviously near and dear to my heart, but a lot of beautiful trees were planted in the park. Steve had a lot to do with that. As far as the mapping, I know a lot of work went into the logistical planning of that, communication with the DNR, et cetera, et cetera. So I still nominate them as a couple and for Steve's long years on city council as well.
And I appreciate the sentiment. Jody said that it would be more appropriate if her award was in memoriam. And
What? Oh my
that's
lord,
what she said.
Jody. Oh boy.
And since I'm currently on the council, I don't think it would be appropriate for any council
I don't even
person.
know if that's allowed, but I knew that there was a lot of work that you did
So,
on the
I
trees,
appreciate-
and the trees are gorgeous. So
I appreciate the
you're welcome.
consideration, but I still think George and the rodeo committee far outweigh my efforts. I can't say they outweigh Jody's efforts, but she was definite. She wanted hers in memoriam.
So 25 years from now.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say 30.
All right.
Okay.
30 years from now. we're
Any
gonna
other discussion on that?
I'm done.
You're done. So there was a motion made by Steve, second by Megan for George Jones and the rodeo committee. Any discussion? Hearing none. Steve,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Ken.
Yep.
Discussion and action on poultry permit for 121 Fifth Street. In front of you, you do have that. It looks like that they had already had poultry on the property. Did not realize that they needed a permit. They did have one rooster, didn't realize that they couldn't, got rid of the rooster. And I believe we haven't heard anything back from any of the neighbors, correct, Deb?
Two of them said that it was okay.
I move we approve it.
So, motion made by Doug,
Second.
second by Lauren.
5 hens, no roosters. They fall within the ordinance. I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none. Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Ken,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yes.
Discussion and action on test and tune tractor pull. As you can see, the Midwest Pullers is looking to have a truck and tractor pull on the 20th. This would be a pull to test and tune their equipment before the official season. It would run the same as the pull at Old Settlers. They would carry the insurance for the event.
So it's a Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Steve, second by Lauren. Discussion. Hearing none. Megan.
Yep.
Doug.
Yes.
Ken.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
Discussion action on Nick's Tipsy Trailers liquor license in front of you. Do you have that?
Is the plan to use the stage area for the seating? The basketball court in front of the stage? Is that how I'm interpreting this drawing?
She does that. She's got benches and chairs that she sets out in front of her bar trailer. So she has to be able to prove seating on her end as well.
Right.
And so she was only using those as her seating. But the basketball court is not used for picnic tables per se. But there is availability to sit there. And I think that's what she was trying to get across.
So the bar area is going to sit like it did last year off the north edge of the basketball court.
Yeah, no change.
Okay, and then the basketball court would be used for her seating plus picnic tables.
There are picnic tables
Okay.
there. A lot of people bring chairs and listen to the band as well. So I think that was just a all encumbrance type thing.
Deb,
Huh.
what is the address that is used for the beer tent area? You assigned an address to it, Old Settlers Way. The problem I have with the address of the premises that it just says Second Street, and this premise is not on Second Street. It's in that
101 Old Settlers Drive.
101 Old Settlers Drive.
I think she has to provide a perimeter to the state of Iowa.
And she also has to provide a correct address. If Second Street is not a correct address, so I move approval of the permit subject to correction of the address to 101 Old Settlers Drive.
Deb, what, oh, go ahead.
That's a motion made by Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lauren. Discussion.
Okay, that's why I was like, I don't know when the discussion part is.
It's always after the second.
The policy expiration date is 5 days, so is she gonna get a new one each time, or isn't it like to October? I mean, is this just one weekend?
Here, isn't it?
The expiration.
Policy expiration date is just 5 days after.
I think the 5-day permit covers the entirety of the season.
The whole 8 months.
Yes, and the reason I say that is because I had to do the same thing for, it's a minimum or maximum of the 5 days. And I had to do the same thing for Rock the Rail last year. It was a minimum or maximum of 5 days. This doesn't mean that her license expires.
Okay.
It just means that that was the expiration date of her. I can't remember. I know it has nothing to do with the season. It covers May through September.
Okay.
It was the minimum, and I can, since it's going through
Sure.
with the possibility of a change of address, I can confirm that.
Deb, did you say something?
Well, that was just for the insurance. The license is a term of 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my other question is, does she like rope off? Is that area roped off?
No. Her insurance does not require that, and neither does mine, and neither does the state of Iowa, so it's never been requested directly to the city to approve it that way.
I believe that the state of Iowa requires a beer garden to have a designated binder. And if that is the case, then they need to do that. And I don't think we need to act on that. If it's a requirement of the permit, it's a requirement of the permit.
Any other discussion? Here's none. We'll go with Megan.
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yeah.
Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Discussion action on dust control. You can see the attached packet that has highlighted areas in which we have discussed previously as to where we are going to do dust control. It looks like the total amount is going to be $8,015 for each for both applications this year.
So we discussed this last year.
Yep.
To the main. So there's 4 X's on 325th Street or South Street. And we suggested that the 2 X's in the middle be removed and it just go from the first X to the last, east to west.
And that'll add
So that will add
however much,
However
140
much.
times however many.
Well, about 900 feet worth, approximately.
Oh, it says it right down here on the bottom of the page.
But aren't they working on that bridge?
What's that?
Yeah, they'll be working on that.
They'll be working on the bridge,
So we
but
won't have to do that anyway. right? That section.
I don't know when they'll get the bridge done, but yeah. It's true. If they're gonna close it for the whole summer, then no, they wouldn't have to do any of that. You're correct.
What was the total cost last year?
8,000. Tim, do you have that?
No, not easily.
So if we, so the price is $600 for 400 feet. Am I
One,
It's
it's a
140 for
140 for 100 feet.
140 for 100 feet.
$1.40 a foot.
And so if we have 900 feet, that'd be an extra $1,200 thereabouts. And I can certainly understand the desire to have that from the bridges over included.
What about on 660th? It's about the same, showing us the same distance, 900 feet. 660th.
Oh.
Well, I'd say take one bite at a time and add the stretch on South Street for now, see how it turns out, see what the benefits are. And then if we feel that it's worth it, we can add some more on 660th in a future year.
Did we do all of South Street last year?
No,
We did not.
We
Okay,
didn't.
so
We didn't do between
I thought we
those
talked
two.
about it, but we didn't. Okay.
So is that
And would we hold off on the dust control for all of South Street until the bridges are done?
No. We still have two, the people who live in McCombs, we have Tangersley's and
Flickingers.
Bogies.
But is there going to, if the street's closed?
I still got traffic going up and down my street.
You do?
Yeah. I got heavy trucks and farm equipment and everything going up down my street in the summertime.
I would say if you're not gonna do all of South Street, to do the east section from the middle X east to that corner. And then just not do that section, the bridge section or the west section.
Wes, are you a part of that bridge discussion?
No.
No, because it was
That's
just a
county.
county thing.
County, yeah.
Yeah.
If we do dust control on South Street and they come in and tear up the bridge, will the heavy equipment that they're using tear up the dust control section?
It'll make it last less long, in my opinion.
But it would probably be the westmost part of that from the bridge back to 210, and not from the creek to the east. Isn't that a reasonable assumption? That they would not have a whole lot of heavy equipment moving east of where they're replacing the bridges?
Depends on their haul routes coming in. They'll have to get their DOT permits and where they're coming off and what kind of trucks they're bringing.
Well, there's really no way to get to that.
A lot of gravel.
No, they
to get
won't.
there when they can just
210
go
is a truck route, so they'll probably come off of
500
that.
feet off of the
Right.
highway.
That's what I mean, that would make the most logical sense.
Because otherwise they're gonna have to come off Fifth Street onto Myers Street,
Right.
down 663rd, all the way down to, and then around.
Round and round. I move approval of the plan with the addition of, including all of South Street, between 210, and, the east city limits on, South Street.
That's a motion made by Steve. Is there a second?
That's as.
I like to
as
talk
I'm
about
looking- oh, go ahead.
that, what you were just talking about. I know that the heavy equipment's gonna take and do away with some of the dust control. But what little bit of them trucks are gonna end up beating that down, there was no gravel anyway or whatever. I would suggest that we just don't do the west side of South Street. I would,
The part in front of Flickinger and,
yeah, I mean, that's beat down already to where there's hardly any gravel on there anyway.
Yes, and that certainly may be appropriate. The other option is to go ahead and do dust control on it, and when they get done, come back and redo
So
what is needed.
I would suggest just not doing the first three. The dust control is not gonna make a
On
matter
South
if the
Street
bridge is
from
out
the creek.
anyway. And if you wanna add that on 660th or whatever, add it there instead.
Okay, so you want to amend the motion, which has not been seconded, so I guess it's not amending it. That we do it, the dust control from the creek to the east city limits on South Street. So moved.
Moved by Steve,
Second.
second by Megan. Discussion. Hearing none. Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yeah.
Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Discussion and action on Twin Homes ordinance language. In front of you, you do see a zoning area definitions from Polk City, Nevada, Huxley, Madrid, and Colo. And you will see on the second page, you'll see the twin home area information for each of those: Polk City, Nevada, Huxley, Madrid, and Colo. I guess this is kind of a workshop to figure out what we want.
Yeah, I was gonna start putting some language together, but I thought we needed to talk before we go any one direction, because it's wide open as to what you want to do. No two cities agree. They call them different things, R2A, R3. Colo didn't have anything other than just talking about multiple housing, so by default, it falls in R2. So I think we need to decide kind of a framework that we want to work within, and then try to draft some language before Thursday.
I think we're mixing apples and oranges.
That's hard, yes.
Wherever you see an R with a number, or an R within M11. Those are zoning districts. They're not uses. They're zoning districts. Just like on that map up there, we have an R1, R2, R3, C1, I1, estate, and so on. Those are districts. Within those districts, you have uses that are permitted. And if you look at Madrid, townhome dwellings with 0 lot lines is a use. And that they have that use in a specific zoning district. If you look at Nevada where it has R4 and R3, they're just talking about a district. They're not talking about uses. Well, they talk a little bit about uses. They talk about townhouses, but they aren't really like an R3, no fewer than 3 or more than 12. So that's not a twin home.
No.
And R3 site for 2 dwelling units, each occupied by 1 family, each in a separate building, excluding mobile home units. So that's not a twin home. And then they have an R2 duplex residential for 2 dwelling units, each occupied by 1 family within a single building. But that doesn't talk anything about ownership. That's just a duplex.
That's a duplex.
So, yes, I think it would be worth taking a look at Madrid's ordinance because they specifically talk about a townhome dwelling with 0 lot lines, which is what we're looking for. And then the question that we have to decide is, do we want a separate zoning district for these, which means that anybody who wants one has to go to planning and zoning, get a rezoning, and then has to come to the city council and get a rezoning. Or do we want to just say that these twin homes are permitted in the R2 district as a use, just like we're going to be considering whether or not feedlots are going to be permitted as a use in the industrial. So uses and districts, do we want to create a new district for this, or do we want them to be part of the existing district, which would mean that they could, if we say it's permitted in the R2 district, then it'd be permitted in the R3 also, and the C1, and so forth. And the chart on the next page so what the Madrid's R2A with an ATT is that like a twin home? What's the ATT mean?
Attached.
Okay.
Right.
So that would be like the twin home.
Yeah.
Okay. 10,000 square foot lot, 90 foot wide, 25 foot setback, 30 foot rear yard, 15 to 17 side yards, maximum building height 45. All that would be pretty consistent with our ordinance in the R2 area, I think, for a duplex, we require 100-foot wide lot instead of 90-foot. But those certainly are pretty close to what we do. So we just need to get Madrid's zoning ordinance. I'm sure that there are a lot of other definitions and language pertaining to twin homes that we would need to incorporate. But Madrid's at least looks like it might be worth looking at in more detail. What did you think?
Here's their ordinance. I think, Deb, you got this one, didn't you, from Madrid?
Yeah.
There it is. That's on the copy.
Which is just a portion of their ordinance.
Right.
Must be when they permitted the twin homes. Can I have this copy, or
But
can I have this copy?
you'll have to make one. That's the only one I think
Okay.
we have at this point.
We'll have Ben make one before we leave.
Any other discussion on item 7G?
Any directions for Doug? I mean, I think having them anywhere in an R2 district, rather than creating a new zoning district, would certainly work for Maxwell. What do other people think?
That'd be the simplest and least amount of change.
Which would mean that, you
I
know,
think that's the majority of towns, yeah.
if there was, the two houses, north of me, if they were torn down, twin home could be built right there next to me. I still think it's important, as I mentioned at the last meeting, that, we have as a requirement in the ordinance that they have 2 off-street parking places. Because you start getting twin homes in our existing residential area, and there'll just be a lot of cars in the street.
Anything else?
And we're meeting Thursday with planning and zoning, correct?
Yes.
All right, moving on, item 7I, discussion action on Maxwell City Park rental agreement with Maxwell's Marketing Park. You'll see the updated agreement. Instead of doing 22 instead of doing weekly Maxwell Marketing Parks events, I think it's bi-weekly. No.
Bi-weekly is
Twice a week.
Sorry.
is a confusing term. It could mean either.
By month.
I looked it up. Semi-monthly.
Yes,
Is
very
clear.
specifically to
Twice a
second
month, yeah.
and fourth, because some months have 5.
Yeah, it's not every other week.
Can't
Twice
say
a month.
that. Twice
They
a
went
month.
from
Second and fourth
Second.
Sunday of the month.
And if we say semi-monthly and they wish to do it on the 5th, then they would be able to do that.
Sure.
But I think that was the intent of what I read.
Yes.
And so under term and purpose, where it was changed from 22 to 10, I would strike the word weekly and insert the word semi-monthly.
I overlooked that, sorry.
It's easy to do.
There are a multitude of reasons. I've kind of listed those out. I think just the general consensus. At the end of the last season, at the beginning of this season, it's gotten worse economically, and there are, I think, at least 24 vendors now that have to just give it up because they can't afford to keep going, and that's unfortunate.
So they're not making money coming up here?
It's not that they're not making money. I think it's between the markets that are starting up and their side hustle on the outside of the season, the cost of supplies may not be, or the money they make may not justify the costs that they're having to put into the supplies to keep up the business, and it's tough, and I think it's just decisions that they've had to make personally that unfortunately have drawbacks on the markets itself.
Your discussions with them has resulted in their suggestion that they would be much more successful if they did it every 2 weeks.
Yes, and I agree with that to the extent that I think it'll keep it exciting. I know that the break in between that doesn't sound great, but I think it'll keep up foot traffic and give people the opportunity to miss it. Does that make sense? I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, sure.
So we're gonna give that a shot. Is this permanent? No. I hope by 2023, 24, 5 especially, we're back to weekly. But I also don't know what that does to the contract. Am I allowed to change it as we move, ebb and flow with this current economic downturn? Am I able to do that? I feel as if it's the right thing to do, update the contract with the city and.
It's only a yearly contract anyway, right?
No, it's a 3-year. And that's maybe my suggestion is maybe going to a shorter contract time to kind of, play out the economy.
Yeah.
We went with a 3-year contract as a guarantee.
I get it. I
And
know. I
to-
remember.
That's my thing.
To the LLC that they could count on the city on the
Yep.
long term. So, amending the contract, is certainly not an issue. And based upon, a lot of the complaints that we all heard when this contract was first approved, opening the park up twice to 3 times a month for other uses certainly would meet the public's concern that it's being reserved for a specific use and nobody else can use it. This takes that away.
Right.
It'll be open on a specific regular basis. The only, you said it was the first and the third?
Second, well, that's those are second and fourth are the market
Well, the
days.
second and fourth works well for old settlers because this year they're going to be on the first weekend. And so there would be no conflict, and it works out great.
We don't have markets on Old Settlers Weekend to begin with, but it does help.
Yeah.
But nobody has to adjust.
Nobody has to adjust. So
does that adjust the? I highlighted the July 21 to 24, the 3-year. We can keep. I don't know how that works. If we keep it that way, and I've adjusted to 10 semi-monthly, and I reduce the rent. I think those are the only 3 changes to the contract itself. And I went through it. There's no other changes on the second and third page, but my question is how does that affect the term? Does it at all? Do you want it to?
I would suggest that we change the term to November of 2024, simply because you don't want to go halfway through a season and then have to redo this. And let's have the contract cover an entire season, and you're done by November anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we could say November 1st of 2024. Anybody in the council have a concern with that?
That makes sense. No? Then,
November.
so you go, so you just have to
Right.
count, you have to
I was
change
gonna say
the
November
10.
1st.
Oh,
You
no,
have
no,
to change
no,
the
no.
amount.
November 1st.
Pardon?
If you do that, then you'd have to change the 10, just to more.
No,
because-
I'd leave it 10. They,
That's the season. I
Well,
think we did have
is
this
10 the
discussion.
season?
It is now. From May through September, there are 10
Okay.
Sundays that will
Oh,
occupy
okay,
the
let's
park.
see, yep.
the contract doesn't say anything about it being, the 2nd and the 4th. That's just a,
Right.
separate, correspondence, an expectation of the council that it would be the 2nd and the 4th.
I can add that in parentheses behind semi-monthly. Maybe that, I guess that would make me,
One advantage of doing that is,
it lets us occupy the park, correct?
What about,
it gives, other people the knowledge of when they would be able
Which
to.
Sunday is which?
right here?
With this,
Right before there.
the
Do the 2nd and 4th Sundays.
null and void for the previous contract then and have a new contract.
Like just,
I'm not
we're just
following.
amending the contract.
Amending this contract.
All the other terms and conditions are the same. So this will be a contract amendment and it would read, that, the duration of the rental agreement would be from July 12 of 2021, to and include November 1st of 2024. And it's, allow the tenant to host 10 semi-monthly, on the 2nd and 4th Sundays, that for Market in the Park events.
Events on the 2nd and 4th
Yeah, events on the
Sundays.
2nd and the 4th Sundays.
So it's still a 3-year contract then,
Yep,
and then it could change again for the year after.
any
Be
council
amended at any time.
can amend a contract at any time,
Okay, that's what I just
yep.
wanted to follow.
My hope is that it is amended again next year.
Well, I think it should be a living document that, if something great happens, we should be able to come in and
Market in the
we can
Park,
amend it.
Saturday
It's
and
not that
Sunday.
big a deal. Nothing to positives.
I am.
Just make a rolling 3-year
That's
contract.
been ruined.
So is that a motion, Steve, to make those changes?
Yes, I so move.
Sure, man.
Motion made by Steve, second by Ken, discussion. Hearing none, Steve,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Thank you.
Council Mayor report.
And you, that included, authorization for the mayor to sign.
Oh, where I was going. Gill approval or no, or just signature?
Was that the intent of the council?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
almost.
I did too. I'll get the changes done, send it to you and we'll.
Council Mayor report. Steve, you're up.
I've been enough of a pain tonight. I'll have nothing.
Lauren,
I have nothing.
Megan,
And then I feel bad because I have one thing, but it's really quick. I know we have a project possibly, right, that we're doing with sidewalks. Have we discussed that?
we've talked about it. I think we took it out of the
We
budget.
took it out of the budget.
Okay, well, I was wondering if at least on like Main Street, we could like spray paint, especially in front of the business areas where the sidewalk seems like, I don't know, over the winter, the sidewalks got a lot more uneven. I had a
think
couple
that's a
of,
great idea.
I had a couple of near falls this week.
Get your
Because
feet up.
well, it's dark when I walk in the morning again. I was lucky in the hole before daylight savings time. But yeah, it's really dark in some areas, and yeah, it just seems like it didn't. I don't know. It wasn't like that before, and now it seems like the sidewalks are very uneven.
One reason why that is such a great idea is that by marking them First of all, it provides a visual cue for the people walking.
Mhm.
But second of all, it provides a visual cue for the property owners and the city. We may have taken money out of the budget to do sidewalks,
Mhm.
but the ordinance still requires the adjacent property owner to maintain their sidewalk. And so if we felt that a stretch of sidewalk is unsafe, we have an obligation to tell the property owner and notify them to fix the sidewalk. Our budgeting money would have allowed them to pay for it by spreading it on their taxes. By not budgeting money, they just need to pay for it.
Okay.
So, even though we did not include money in the budget for that this year, that doesn't mean, for this coming year, that doesn't mean that we can't revisit the issue. And one way to figure out if we want to revisit the issue is to paint them, see how bad they are, and then see if we want to do a budget amendment next year.
So that was my next question to that. Who is responsible for painting them? Would we send letters to the property owners and tell them that they need to, mark there, or would the city
I think
have to go around?
I think the city should do it, and so that would be probably the assistant public works person, which we don't have.
This doesn't exist.
Right.
Or Tony and any council person that wants to volunteer and just go.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That was a question. It wasn't a volunteer. Sorry. I pulled it back.
We saw that hand up.
I pulled it back. He wasn't looking.
I could volunteer, but unfortunately, then Tony would have to stay late because I work during the day, so or he'd have to do it on the weekend, and I don't want to have to make him do that. So
Do we need Tony? I'll help him. We'll go do something.
we'll just go spray paint ourselves.
Well,
Actually,
we could set it, whatever it is, 2
he
inches.
has the spray paint
Machine.
but, yeah, you just a long wand. And you put a bottle on the end and you pull the trigger. You don't have to bend over, which is great for me. And you can just kind of lightly mark where it needs to be, and then Tony can come back later and do better markings if it needs to be. So yeah, you can certainly do that on your own. Wes, are you still here?
Yep.
Are there standards as to what they should be looking for, or just common sense? This is bad and it needs to be marked.
I believe there are standards. I'd have to look at what those are for, you're talking like for differential pavements and yeah, I think there are. I can check with our ADA guys, which it probably falls in their category.
Yeah, if they have a single sheet of or a couple sheets of things to look for.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not talking like if it's just like, oh, they're not perfectly.
No,
I'm
I
like,
think
if
there's
it's,
a
if it's enough to
differential
trip
number.
me, then I'm like, yeah.
It says if it's so many inches different or whatever, then I'm pretty sure there's a number out there, but I'll verify and find out.
We may want to mark the ones that are less than that.
Mhm.
But if they are more than that, we definitely want to know because it's a public safety issue.
So we should use multiple colors.
No, I'd use one color
When I have seven, yeah, like five
and a notebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this just Main Street or is this citywide? Because if you're gonna take one step, you gotta take another.
I agree. I agree with that. That's a wonderful suggestion. Let's start on Main Street and
Then get
see what kind of
volunteers with extra color.
see what kind of a problem it is. I mean, there are sidewalks in front of on Baldwin in front of Laws that I don't think anybody unless you're a mountain climber.
It's sideways. I love it. It's
Yeah.
really good for your calves. But
And
what
then you
I'm
go back the other way.
saying, yeah, you gotta go both ways. But that one, I feel, I mean, I still mark it if you want me to. But it's because of the tree, which needs removed, and it's part of our other
It's gonna
map.
happen.
It's one of another
I was
project.
just
It's like
using
one
that
project
as
does
the
another.
most egregious example of a heaved sidewalk.
Yeah, I would agree with
There are
that.
many others, if we start on Main Street and get that marked up, we can evaluate how much effort it took, and then we could certainly say, okay, let's identify our safe route to school sidewalks and do those next. And maybe some of the others could be a future project after we get all those done.
On Main Street, go clear up to the stop sign on Fifth. Is that what you're considering this first drag?
Because there's a lot of streets that don't have any sidewalks.
Yes, sir.
Mine.
What do
You can't trip on mine.
What do you think, Megan? How far,
Where
when you
does it
say Main
stop?
Street, how far do you go?
Well, I mean, the most populated that is being probably walked is just Fifth Street to the end. Not even,
That's you're going
yeah.
from Fifth Street,
The
okay.
Yeah.
business district, or which would be from Third Street, or Second Street, from Second Street down to the south end of town, or further north?
I don't know.
Where
I was
do you
thinking
trip?
Fifth would be a good just stopping point would be
Okay.
Fifth. Where I trip most, well, I don't want to call anybody out, but it also is very dark in that area. So I would say the most problem is probably Third to Fifth. Because there's
The
all those
residential
full
part, yeah,
trees,
trees are blocking
and
the lights.
you can't see
Yeah,
with the
many of
street
which we're
light.
gonna get rid of this year.
Good, well then, be less tripping hazard, won't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fifth to the south end of town, let's see how big the problem is.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I'm willing to go anywhere, so if we wanna do around the school next, or where other kids might be walking, I don't care. I'll do them. I got plenty of free time right now. In the
Well,
evenings.
Let's get Main Street done and evaluated, and then go from there.
Okay,
Anything else?
nope, that's it.
Doug?
The letter that came with the water bill, and maybe I'm misreading it, about the $17,000 grant that we have with the $5,000 maximum. Is there a deadline that I'm not seeing here, not interpreting right, of when the grants have to be applied for, the application? Because it says length of time to spend the funds is September 30th. But do we need a deadline, or do we have one that I'm not understanding of when people need to say, I want to be in the pool to be considered?
Greg was gonna work on that if I remember
Okay,
correctly.
that's what, because I don't see it in here, and I bet it's somebody asked.
I read it twice.
And you have to have an application,
And we need to get an application
because I've already been
and some
asked 3
criteria
times
that
for
we're
it.
going to rank these on before we even see them. Okay, that was one thing. And somebody asked that we have sent a letter out because we missed the monitoring of our water 1 month or something. Is that right?
We were late getting it in.
Okay, so no big deal. The water tested fine, but we were just missed the deadline to get it done. Okay, that was all I had.
Ken?
Only thing I can think of is when we talk about taking the trees out of the right of way, that I would consider not allowing any more trees to be planted in the right of way, due to the fact that you're just gonna run into the same problem again. I know there's a lot of towns that don't have trees parked in the right of way, probably for that same reason. They didn't want to be responsible for it.
Yes.
I just want you to think about that. That's it.
I attended 3 tree keepers classes in the last 3 weeks because Jody needed a ride. And But I listened anyway, and yes, you're right, some cities don't allow trees in the right of way. All cities require that if, and us, we're part of this also, that if a tree is being put in the right of way, that it has to have city council approval. And that there are standards as to when it can be put in the right of way, such as at least 4 feet of green space between the curb and the sidewalk. And that it's planted in the middle of that area instead of too close to the sidewalk. And so there's, we say you can't plant a tree without city council approval. We could also adopt policies then that govern how we would approve them and when we would approve them. And more importantly, the mixture of the trees, because we don't want to be in a situation where you plant a bunch of trees and then they get the next disease. You want to have diversity. And so all of that can be done by policy because our ordinance already says you can't plant without city council approval.
Right. All right.
What kind of tree in here?
In the right of way.
Oh, in the right of way, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
On public land.
I wasn't here for the last meeting, but when are they starting to take the bridges out? This year?
I
Next year?
thought so. I thought it was like, isn't it this, like,
So
they
they're
were
just
gonna
gonna
know by April or something, and then they were gonna start on it this spring. Were they not?
Yes.
The spring? And they're just replacing it with culvert?
No, my understanding,
I don't think so.
my
bridge.
understanding is they're taking 2 bridges out and replacing it with 1.
Okay. They're not doing like they did on the east side of Gary Plunkett there on 600 where they took the bridge out and then just put a big, huge box culvert type
No,
thing
I
over
don't
it.
think so.
Where did they use?
You know where they closed the road?
Yep.
Okay, that bridge,
Yeah.
Yep.
then you just go around the corner and go south.
Yeah.
It had a kind of an identical bridge to it. They took that one out and just put a box culvert in there, a huge box culvert. I didn't know if that's what they were gonna do. That would make it a lot simpler.
Yeah, that may be what they're doing. I don't know. It's going to be a single.
But I know a lot of water runs through that.
Like about where that 134 foot, it's right in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of water that runs under that bridge over here on South Street when it rains, so.
Yes.
It goes up quickly, and it goes down quickly.
Anything else?
Nope.
I have nothing, so moving on to consent agenda.
Ken wasn't at which one?
Nope, I wasn't at the 6th, March 6th.
So you can move approval of BMC. Was everybody here for the 27th?
Yeah,
Okay.
except for Jason.
So I move approval of 9 B and C.
That's a motion made by Steve,
Second.
second by Megan. Discussion. Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug? Yep. Ken?
Yeah.
Move approval of 9A.
Motion made by Steve,
Second.
second by Megan. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan? Doug?
Yes.
Sorry, I said yes. I nodded. Oh, I forgot. I needed to say it out loud.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Ken,
It's not official unless.
second by Lauren.
Lauren's gotta be involved.
She said it.
Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yep.
Doug? Ken?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.